Hey everybody, this is Dr. Eric Davis again, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about addiction versus chemical dependency. So let's just dive right in here. Okay, make sure. Okay, so the current paradigm is that society as a whole tends to view addiction as chemical dependency. So by very definition, if you think about it, if someone is addicted, what's the definition of that? Well, it means they're taking a substance. When they stop, they get sick, they go through withdrawal, then that means they're addicted to a substance. Okay. So society as a whole views addiction as chemical dependency. Chemical dependency means my body is addicted to a substance and I experience withdrawal when I stop taking it. Now, addicted is looked at as another way of saying chemically dependent, correct? But I want to propose to you a new paradigm. Um, Chemical dependency is completely and totally curable, okay? Um, I used to work at Fairbanks years ago before I started Life Recovery Center in 2004, and I worked on the inpatient unit. And the medical director at the time was a good friend of mine named Dr. Tim Kelly. He's an addictionologist. He's one of the leading experts on, you know, addiction from a medical standpoint. And if someone, say, was shooting heroin and they come to Fairbanks and Dr. Kelly detoxifies them, by the time they leave, they're no longer chemically dependent. So the thing is, the chemical dependency is absolutely curable. A person who's been in recovery, say for 10 years, has not been chemically dependent for 10 years, probably. Um, Maybe, it depends on if they did like a medication assisted type thing. But the bottom line is they are not still chemically dependent on their drug of choice. So addiction is the thinking and the behaviors that remain long after chemical dependency has been cured. So um, it's the thinking and the behaviors. If you think about it, what is the modality of therapy that we most commonly use to treat addiction? It's cognitive behavioral therapy because we address the cognition or the thinking and we address the behaviors through therapy. Um, for something to be considered an addiction, two things have to be present. The first one is obsessive thinking. The second one is compulsive behavior. We're really seeing a lot of this with, problem gambling disorder, which is now listed in the DSM-5 as an addictive disorder. But if you think about it, there's no substance. You know, um, it's a behavior that the person continually is doing, and so on and so forth. You know, uh, the problem gamblers that I have treated, they have that obsessive thinking, just like an addict who is addicted to a substance. They think about it, ways and means to get more, you know, um, thinking about, the big wins they've had, etc. And once they start, they can't stop. So, once again, chemical dependency is my body biologically being addicted to a substance. It means I'm dependent on something. Let's say pain pills. If somebody takes pain pills for weeks and weeks and weeks and then just stops taking them, they're going to experience withdrawal. Addiction, or the disease of addiction, is the thinking and the behaviors that remain long after chemical dependency is long gone. Okay? So, what does addiction look like? Pardon me, I've got a sore throat today. So, what does addiction look like? Here's the example that I use. If we were in a classroom setting and not online, I would do this example for you in person. I typically hold up a dry erase marker that I'm writing on the board with, And I ask the class, I say, if I let go of this marker, what's going to happen? And they say, well, it's going to fall to the ground. And I ask the class, I say, well, how do you know that? How do you know? When someone inevitably says, well, because, our whole lives, anytime we let go of something, it falls to the floor, or, even a helium balloon comes down to the ground eventually. Nothing just floats and never comes down. We learned about gravity. We learned about Newton's apple, all these different things. And so I'll look at him and I'll get a really serious look on my face and I say, you know what? Actually, this is going to float. You guys are wrong and it's going to float. And so I'll ask, okay, now what do you guys think when I say that? And don't be polite. Don't be polite. And people will say, well, you're crazy. You've lost your mind. Sometimes they'll have fun with it. They'll say, Dr. Davis, you're an idiot. And the truth is, I definitely sound like one when I say that. So I'll say, no, no, you guys are wrong. So I hold up the marker and I let go of it and it falls to the floor. And then I say, you know what? It's the hand I dropped it with. I dropped it with my right hand. Let me drop it with my left hand. So I'll hold it up with my left hand and I'll let go and it falls to the floor. And then I say, you know what? It's the black marker. I'm going to use the red one. I don't think the black marker is going to float. The red marker will float. Let me try that. So I lift that up, let go, it falls. And then I'll have fun with it. I'll say, oh, hey, Brian, you looking at it is totally, causing a problem. You look at the wall because you're throwing the mojo off. And it falls to the floor again. And so I'll ask the class, I'll say, hey, and I'll have fun with that. I'll stand on chairs, I'll face different directions, whatever. So I ask the class, I say, so what is the undeniable pattern here? And the undeniable, man, I can't even talk. Sorry, guys. And the undeniable pattern is the marker is not going to float. No matter how many different ways I try, no matter how many different markers, no matter which way the wind's blowing, no matter what, the marker is not going to float. That's just a fact. But I say to them, but just imagine, what if I had a thinking problem, if you will, or a thinking disease or issue, whatever you want to call it, where no matter how many times I let go of that thing and it falls to the floor, my brain tells me, you know what, this next time can be different. And the way that translates into addictive thinking is, people will say, you know what, it's just the drug I'm using. This cocaine is absolutely bringing me to my knees. I'll just smoke pot. Or these pills, man, these pills really got a hold of me. I'm just gonna stick to smoking crack or whatever. I'll just stick to drinking. And that really is the way addiction works. I've had patients who literally, and I'm not even exaggerating, have come into my office and I'm looking at the legal paperwork that they brought with them because they got a DUI. And I'm looking through their history and I'm seeing, 5 or 6 DUIs. And they will proceed to tell me how, you know, they really don't have a problem and they just, they've made mistakes. And the truth is, one DUI, okay, that's an accident maybe. But the second DUI isn't on purpose, you know? So that's how addiction works. It tells the person that it can be different, that if they can just find out a special way, think of somebody who has a deathly allergy to strawberries. So just imagine that, if they eat strawberries, they break out in hives, their throat swells, they could suffocate to death. It could be fatal. One strawberry could be fatal. But imagine that same person and they have that, thinking disease that says, yeah, but what if I just eat the stem side first? or they think, well, what if I just dip the strawberry in water and then spin it on the table for 3 seconds, and then I bet I could eat it and not get sick. Addiction literally works that way. People will blame all sorts of different things: their location, the drug they're using, the people they're hanging out with. And true, all of those things play a role in addiction, but addiction in and of itself is a thinking and behavioral disease. So please remember that. So, a new outlook that I really want to propose to you throughout this entire course is that chemical dependency is not addiction. Addiction is not chemical dependency. You can have one without the other at any given time, and that's fully possible. Chemical dependency is the physical dependence on a substance. Addiction is the underlying illness, the thinking and the behaviors that exist before, during, and after chemical dependency. So anyway, there's my handsome face. I'm sure you just can't get enough of it. Hardy har. But seriously, I hope that this presentation has made some sense. And if there's my contact information in the bottom left-hand corner. If you have any questions that I can answer or be of assistance in any way, please do not hesitate for even a moment to reach out to me. And thank you so much for your time.